Welcome to Violent Vinyl Radio, where we break down the best hair metal albums from the 80s and the 90s. So grab that volume knob, crank it up, and enjoy the show. Live from the VVR studio in downtown Boston, it's showtime. Welcome to Violent Vinyl Radio. I'm your host, Des, and as always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. First up, the podcaster holding all the aces, Dangerous Dave. All aboard! And last but not least, the podcaster who likes the dark side of the beat. It's Lisa. What's up, Lisa?
Of all the things I've lost, I miss my mind the most.
Oh, that makes two of us.
Direct quote from Ozzy. So.
Yes. I believe he lost it snorting ants. As always, the mission of the show is for us to introduce each other and you, the listeners, to albums and bands which you may never have heard before, while also discussing the classics. So sit back and enjoy the show. And I think with our new little segment, that's truer than ever, right?
That's right. It's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. All right. So joining you again on a Sunday afternoon. Kind of like Sunday afternoon. Gives me a little extra time. Doesn't impede on my weekend. So anytime you guys want to do that, just say the word. Dave, tell the listeners where they can find this fine show.
We are available on most podcast outlets. Also, check us out on YouTube. Give us a listen and tell a friend. Like, subscribe, and share. You can find us on our social medias at Instagram at VVR Podcast Insta and on Facebook at Violent Vinyl Podcast.
I like it a lot. Okay. Well, since you guys have been participating in the show, I'm talking to you, the listeners, right now. We're going to add the mailbag today because we actually got some fucking mail, which is nice. Yes. So, first up, J Shear 101 wrote in with the band suggestion for me. He wanted us to check out Steeler from 1983. I had never heard this band before. Dave, were you familiar with Steeler?
I've heard of them. I never really listened to them.
And Lisa, I know you're a big fan.
I have heard them before only because Yngwie was involved in the band and I had a mild obsession with him for a year or two back in the day. So.
Okay, so I'd never heard of the band or anything. So I just I went over to YouTube, just checked out a few songs and realized, oh, it's Yngwie Malmsteen. So of course I was also intrigued. Yeah, I mean, I thought the band was pretty cool. I thought unfortunately the singer was maybe the weak link. Not that he was bad, but I mean, anytime you got Yngwie Malmsteen in the band, it's like, just shut the mic off and let's listen to Yngwie rep. What'd you guys think? Dave?
I didn't really, I haven't listened to them recently, so I couldn't say for sure.
Okay, thank you for coming prepared. Lisa, what did you think of Steeler? Did you listen to any tracks?
Maybe the problem is with Yngwie. Whenever he's in a band, he needs to be the center of everything. Totally. It's almost like, why do you have anyone else playing with you if you can't play with other people? So
he's got to unleash the fucking fury.
Yeah, I feel like he's always going to be a solo artist. He's never going to play behind anyone big because he has to be center. This might have been I think it was one of his first attempts at a band, at a whole band that made an album. And it was clear that it was never going to work out for him that way. So,
in Dave's defense, I just sprang the mailbag on everybody this morning. he had no heads up for listening to Steeler. But anyway, Jay Shear, thank you very much for the suggestion. And anytime you want to write in again with some albums or whatever, please feel free to do so. This is not one we're probably going to break down, just because we're trying to get the podcast off the ground. And right now I'm trying to stick to albums I think everybody has heard, just so everyone can follow along and have fun listening to the podcast, kind of knowing the songs we're talking about. But good suggestion and cool album. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the deep cuts myself too. I kind of listen to the off track stuff, so that's good. But People need to know what we're talking about first.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get back to it once the show starts, getting into the, multiple thousand listens per episode, and people are kind of on board and following around and interested in doing the homework with us. Maybe we'll start doing some deeper albums and stuff again, but for now, I think we're going to keep it more mainstream. And of course, we're doing the new segment in the middle of the show. So we'll be bringing some more, deeper cuts to that. And that's the other thing, guys. If you know of any local bands that you knew about from the day in your travels and they have content on YouTube and you want to give us some suggestions, feel free. We'll do that as well. So there you go. Next up, AM 3986. Now, I have no definitive proof on this, okay? And I have pride a little bit. I suspect that this is Seamus, but I cannot get it out of him. The person will not tell me. So I don't know if this is Seamus or not, but my gut tells me. I watch Columbo, right? So it's little tells, like he says cheers sometimes in his emails. So I don't know, maybe not, whatever. But it's almost more fun as a mystery. But anyway, Seamus writes in.
Return of Seamus.
He writes in with this Watt score for Cinderella album. His favorite track was Nobody's Fool, the track he would cut in from the outside. He is replacing Jeff LaBar with Jakey Lee. Oh, man, I thought that was a fucking awesome replacement. Really cool. And they're very similar, like visually very similar looking dudes. And I think that would have been a seamless swap. And his Watt score is 69.6 watts. So there you go. I want to thank you for taking the time for writing into the show and giving us your Watt score on Night Songs. So there you go. And finally, Henning 317. And the name is a little longer than Henning. It goes a little longer, but I didn't want to butcher the name. I couldn't pronounce it. So I just shortened it to Henning 317. He gave me some props for my song on Blacked Out Mona Lisa. Went over to my YouTube channel, watched the song. He gave it a score of 90 watts in the comments. Nice. Yes. And yeah, I think, what he had said was that he was impressed that, I played all the instruments on it, wrote it, and sang it. So I think the 90 watts kind of was a combination of the song itself and his respect for my efforts, if you will. So there you go. Thank you very much.
I still love it.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I truly appreciate it, guys. Thanks for writing into the show. Hopefully we can do a mailbag every week. Mailbag. That's okay. Let's call it something else. Okay, so there you go. Tonight, we will be discussing Blizzard of Ozz, the debut studio album by Ozzy Osbourne. Produced by Ozzy Osbourne, Randy Rhoads, Bob Daisley, and Lee Kerslake. Released on September 12th, 1980 on Jet Records. The album peaked at the number 21 spot on the US Billboard 200. I had never really heard of Bob Daisley. I've heard of him now. Holy fucking shit. Everyone was talking about Randy Rhoads. Should have been talking about Bob Daisley. The band's lineup was as follows. The great Ozzy Osbourne on lead vocals. The great virtuoso guitar player, Randy Rhoads, on all guitars, lead guitars. The aforementioned Bob Daisley on bass and backing vocals. Lee Kerslake on drums and Don Airy on keyboards. For some reason, in my mind, this was a different bass player and drummer. But this is what we
we're
got.
going to find out why you think that.
Okay. Because it was a Mandela effect. I'm going, no.
It's not at all. Strikingly, that is an accurate remembrance.
Yes, I won't tread on you, but I was saying to Delenn, I'm like, God, the bass is so good on this. And then she said the name you're going to say. And I went, no, it's not. It's someone else. So there you go. Now I'm going to have to dig and look for more of this guy's work because I want to hear more from this guy. Okay, well, here we go. Dave, why don't you give us some facts on this and don't tread on Lisa's fact?
All right. Well, we got a bunch of facts.
All right.
Ozzy had achieved his initial success when he was with Black Sabbath from 1968 until his firing in 1979 due to his reliance on alcohol and drugs and his reluctance to work on a new album. His replacement was former Rainbow vocalist Ronnie James Dio. Ironically, all the other mates in Sabbath were also whacked out on alcohol and drugs, but they claim it was a necessary step at that time for their band. After his firing, Ozzy was depressed and went on a 3-month bender. Astoundingly, manager of Black Sabbath Don Arden signed Ozzy to a solo record deal on his own label, Jet Records. Don's daughter Sharon assisted in managing Ozzy and would later become his wife. That's Sharon Osbourne.
Nice.
With the assistance of his management, he found the musicians for his solo band: drummer Lee Kerslake of Uriah Heep, bassist Bob Daisley of Rainbow and later Uriah Heep,
Mm.
Keyboardist Don Airey of Rainbow and later Deep Purple, and then guitarist Randy Rhoads of Quiet Riot.
Rainbow. So there it is. So I have heard Bob Daisley before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, he was just pumping it on this one.
From Discogs.com, this album was recorded on a 16-track analog tape multitrack in 6 weeks. The recording began on March 22nd, 1980 at Ridge Farm Studios in rural Surrey.
Sorry.
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 Sorry. A residential, that's England,
Mhm.
residential facility based around a 17th century farmhouse. The initial producer, Chris Sangarides, was relieved of his duties, fired after a week, and the 4 band members would go on to co-produce the album with Ridge Farm staffer Max Norman as engineer. He would later produce more Ozzy albums and I believe Megadeth, recording in the converted barn that served as the main studio.
Dave, it's funny you say that. I don't know. So you said that 2 producers worked on this?
They initially had one producer and they fired him, and then basically just the band produced it with the engineer assisting.
When I listened to it, the album definitely comes in and out of focus a little bit from a production standpoint. Like some songs sound better than others, obviously.
Mhm.
But overall, I remembered Randy Rhoads having a much better guitar sound. I mean, his playing is phenomenal on the album, but the sound is a little questionable. I mean, would you agree? I mean, before we
It's
get into it, a little thin, a little squeaky.
I have my opinion. I love Randy, but his guitar tone has always been kind of ratty and
Yeah.
not great.
1980 was a different time, though. For
It was a different time.
No. Because I was going to do that. I was going to give this the old pass. Like, oh, it's 1981, 1980. But no, go back and listen to old Van Halen. Fucking Eddie had no problem getting an ass whooping guitar sound that was thick and juicy.
You know what may have affected your memory, though, speaking of not really Mandela effect, but because of how big Randy became and how short his career was, I think a lot of people have kind of taken those tracks and shined them up and re-released them. And
Yeah.
what we hear today isn't always what was recorded back then. So
Yep. I mean, it's a double-edged sword with this sound that Randy brings to this album because, and I'm going to get into it in the first track, but yeah, he traded some warmth and some thickness and all of that shit that Eddie brought to like those first Van Halen albums, sure, but you can also hear every single note he's playing on this album. It cuts right through, sometimes in a bad way, but yeah. So sorry.
Yeah, we'll talk about the gear a little bit more, but yeah, I mean, Eddie had definitely a warmer, big guitar tone. I mean, even Kiss got some pretty good sound out of their Marshalls.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
At the time of the album's recording, the band itself was billed as the Blizzard of Ozz. The band members were expecting the album to be credited to the band with Osbourne's name in smaller print, just as it had appeared on the Crazy Train single. When the band appeared at the Reading Festival in 1980, they were billed simply as Ozzy Osbourne's new band.
terrible.
Sweet. Yeah. Great. Thanks. The act became Ozzy Osbourne and no longer a band. However, the other guys were reluctant to rock the boat.
Dude, these album covers he was coming out with at the time too. Oh, they're so good. They're so good. Sorry.
In 1997, Bob Daisley and Kerslake would sue the Osbournes for alleged non-payment of performance royalties. Sharon responded by having both Blizzard of Ozz and the next album, Diary of a Madman, remixed in 2002 with Daisley and Kerslake's contributions replaced with new recordings from Ozzy's then rhythm section, bassist Robert Trujillo, and drummer Mike Borden. I was not able to track down the full album in this format, but I did find comparison clips on YouTube, and the 2002 remix is terrible.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's so bad. The original bass and drum, I mean, nothing against those guys because they're monster musicians from, Roberts and Metallica. Mike Borden was from Faith No More. They
Right.
are excellent musicians, but the remix and what they did with those tracks is so bad. The original bass and drum tracks were reinstated for the 2011 re-release due to public outcry.
And to be fair, Ozzy claims and has claimed over the years this was not his idea, that Sharon did this without consulting him and put the albums out without his knowledge, and he has not been happy about it.
Right.
I 100% believe that because Sharon is like cutthroat businesswoman.
She
She
is.
is her way or the highway, and that includes Ozzy.
In 2019, the album was certified 5 times platinum. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
The majority of the songs on the album were written by Ozzy, Randy, and Bob Daisley working together. And now we're going to talk about Randy Rhoads a little bit.
Wait, hold on, Dave, because I just realized that I never put in where this landed on the Billboard 200. Do we have that information?
Billboard 200.
I don't know how.
This did not place on the Billboard 200, and the reason I
What?
know that is because at the time there was never a metal album on the Billboard chart, right?
I cannot believe Crazy Train. No.
But so this is what I
looks like-
read. So what I read is the first heavy metal album to appear on Billboard's chart was 1983's Quiet Riot Mental Health. I believe
Metal
that this album did place on Billboard later, but not at the time.
So, do you guys think that they said "boys fuck your girls" on the track and slipped it by the radio stations? There's got to be like tracks,
I
right?
feel like yes, because
Yes.
it's Ozzy, but yeah.
No,
I
no,
think-
no. The Quiet Riot.
Oh,
Come
Quiet.
on,
Yes.
feel the noise.
Yeah,
girls,
absolutely.
Fuck you, boys. They
Yeah.
definitely did.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
So I believe that the album charted in 87, not in 80, is what I read.
This album?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It may have gotten a boost, but yeah, 1987 is when the live tribute album
Right.
came out.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they had a music video for Crazy Train.
Mhm.
Yep.
But it says on Wikipedia that it went to 20,
Yeah.
peaked at 21 on the U.S. Billboard 200.
Yeah, there's a lot of competing information
Um,
out there about this one.
So yeah, we can't say.
All right. Let's go with
100%.
21. 21. There you
All
go.
right. So Randy Rhoads' mom was a music teacher who ran a local music school in California. He started playing at 6 years old and pretty quickly exceeded his first guitar teacher's knowledge. Guitarists Glenn Buxton from Alice Cooper Band, Mick Ronson from David Bowie's band, and Leslie West from Mountain were early influences on his playing. He would eventually also teach guitar to local kids. He was the original guitar player of LA club band Quiet Riot in the late 70s. They would go on later to get on the charts with Carlos Cavazo playing guitar. They put out 2 albums that were released in Japan only, but never achieved too much success at that time. There is a 1993 compilation album called Quiet Riot, The Randy Rhoads Years, that has a good selection of material from their early albums and some live tracks added. It shows he had some serious chops even before he got the Ozzy gig. His local competition of guitarists at the time included Eddie Van Halen and George Lynch, who would go on to form Dokken. He reluctantly went to the Ozzy audition and got the okay as he was tuning and warming up through a little practice amp. Fast forward many years, and Randy was formally inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on October 30th, 2021, as a recipient of the Musical Excellence Award. This one's for all the guitar nerds out there. We're going to talk about the gear a little bit. You probably know all this stuff already, but Randy's main guitars were a white Gibson Les Paul Custom and a black and white polka dot Flying V custom built by Carl Sandoval. Later on, shortly before his death, he would work with the Jackson Guitar Company to create the Concord Flying V guitar, where one wing was slightly shorter than the other. They still make versions of this guitar today known as the Rhodes V. His amps were 100-watt Marshall, and he used a custom-made pedal board, which included a Crybaby Wah, MXR distortion, EQ, chorus, and flanger with a Roland volume pedal. Ozzy used to call the pedal board the chip pan because it created so much hiss and noise it was like French fries getting cooked. Pretty sure that's the source of why his tone wasn't great. He was playing through, just sort of a janky ass pedal board. That's. I feel like he could have gotten a better tone, but it was his tone. So, unfortunately, now we get to the bad part. From Wikipedia, on March 19th, 1982, the band was in Florida for its Diary of a Madman tour, a week away from playing Madison Square Garden in New York City. A light aircraft piloted by the band's tour bus driver, carrying Randy Rhoads and the band's costume and makeup designer, Rachel Youngblood, crashed while performing low passes over the band's tour bus. The left wing of the aircraft clipped the bus, causing the plane to graze a tree and crash into the garage of a nearby mansion, killing everyone on board, the pilot,
What an
Randy,
asshole.
and Youngblood. Yeah. The crash was ruled the result of poor judgment by the pilot in buzzing the bus and misjudging clearance of obstacles. Experiencing firsthand the horrific death of his close friend and bandmate, Ozzy fell into a deep depression. Randy's death remains kind of a mystery since he wasn't crazy about flying in planes, according to some of his friends and bandmates. An unfortunate incident of horseplay cost three people, their lives. And unfortunately, I'm guessing Ozzy has felt a burden of responsibility and guilt about it all these years. Information from the toxicology report revealed that the pilot had cocaine in his system. Randy's report was clean. Rudy Sarzo's book speculates on drama between the pilot and the pilot's ex-wife and theorizes the plane was headed directly for the tour bus to kill that ex-wife, and that Randy may have heroically acted at the last minute to save his friends and bandmates on the ground.
Ooh,
I had never heard about that
a
before.
lot of speculation there.
Yeah. But I didn't read Rudy's book. It's probably a good read.
Sounds like it.
Despite his already legendary status in rock and metal guitar, had he lived longer, he may have eclipsed other 80s guitar idols and have been even bigger.
So from what I understand, that white Les Paul he plays, that is the 74 20th anniversary edition.
Believe so, yeah.
Which is what lent me to buy the exact same guitar in black, 1974 nice. 20th anniversary edition. So yes, that was a little homage to the great Randy Rhoads. I said if it was good enough for him, that is good enough for me.
All right.
Dave, is that what you got? You got anything else?
That's what I got for now.
Lisa, grab the wheel of this little Cessna and fucking guide us in.
This is a hard one, man, because there is just so much information. I can't believe that you were able to kind of pull that down just into a few facts. That was pretty good.
Thanks.
So we know that Crazy Train was released before the album was in August of 1980. September 12th, 1980 was when the album was released in England, and in the US, March 81. Crowley was released a little bit later in 81. Remember that MTV's first day was August 1st of 1981. So all of this music came out not just before the internet, not just before streaming, not just before CDs, not just before all of that other stuff, before MTV. Like it was a whole different world back then, right? On the radio were hits from Blondie, Lionel Richie, Kim Carnes, Rick Springfield. Not anything in this genre really on the charts at all. Um, when we talk about the best heavy metal of all time, Ozzy's name is always mentioned. In fact, on Rolling Stone's best heavy metal of all time, his name has 8 spots on the chart, including the number 1 with Black Sabbath's Paranoid. This album comes in at number 9, as well as 8 other mentions between Black Sabbath and Ozzy on that chart. These guys were truly creating what was basically a genre of music in its infancy at the time, right? I mean, they were call them the grandfathers of heavy metal. They were the creators, right? This was not burning up the charts, as we spoke about a minute ago. The first heavy metal album on the Billboard charts was 1983's Mental Health by Quiet Riot. There were also no official videos from this album at the time because there was no MTV.
Right,
So-
right. Why would you make a video?
Right. We do obviously know that there was a video for Crazy Train, which came out in '87 for the tribute album. It's a pretty cool video, actually, but it's not the same as what we think of regular videos where they play the song and you see the band, because the band was basically different at that point. So, yeah.
I think it had been different about 5 times over by that point.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
would
Yeah.
you guys consider Van Halen a metal band or no?
I think it's more rock, but there's
Sure.
maybe a metal edge.
I mean, they came
Metal
Especially for-
adjacent.
Especially for that time,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I guess I think Van Halen's album came out before this one, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The first
Mhm.
album was in
Yeah.
78.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean,
And-
I think
And
they
Van
got-
Halen played the US Festival on Heavy Metal Day.
Yeah. So there you go. I think we have to give them a little credit as the grandpapas
Oh, sure.
too.
But I mean, you could also say Led Zeppelin was one of the first heavy metal bands too, but this genre was in its infancy.
Still
so,
pretty new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I agree that Ozzy definitely took it to the next level of metal from where Van Halen was for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the album cover for a minute. I think Dave wanted to talk about this a little bit. So it's a picture of Ozzy, dressed as what looks like a priest, with some interesting lighting, maybe doing an exorcism with some interesting stuff around him, and
In an attic.
and a
Good.
little black cat in the background. Fun fact, the black cat, they didn't even really notice that he was there. It was not an intentional part of the shot. They were doing these photos by themselves with just a regular camera in the attic of where they were recording, and the cat just happened to be there, and they left him in.
And then Ozzy bit its head off.
Yeah. So, Dave, what do you think of this cover?
It's awesome. I love it.
It is
Fucking metal.
It's
Metal.
metal, it's satanic, it's beautiful,
fucking
it's
incredible.
everything that it needed to be back in the day. Yeah. So along with the tribute album, which I believe came out in '87, that had a few of these songs on it, right?
Several.
Yeah.
Most of them.
Most of them, yeah. Blizzard of Ozz was re-released in 2002, which Dave talked about with the recording. And again in 2011 with the rhythm section back. The 40th annual expanded edition was released in 2020 with a bunch of remixes from songs and live performances. And it reached I believe it was the 40th annual one, reached number 9 on the Billboard Top Tracks chart. Was that what? Am I right about that, or was that Crazy Train? I think my
I'm
notes
not
are a little
sure.
confused. Okay,
I'm not sure.
yeah.
But actually, looking at the tribute album now, every track from Blizzard of Ozz is represented
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
guys, quickly before we
In the
move on
live
from the
stuff.
album covers, let's do the big three. Which one was the best? Diary of the Madman, Bark at the Moon, or Blizzard of Ozz?
Bark at
Which
the
was the
Moon.
better? Bark at the Moon.
Yep.
Dave?
I'm going with Blizzard.
I'm going with Diary.
Oh!
We have a three-way split.
Three-way
Okay.
split.
Sorry, Lisa. Keep going.
Okay.
Guys, write in. What's your favorite out of the three?
What is your favorite out of the three? Is your favorite Diary or just the cover?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, just the cover. Diary of the
Okay.
Madman. That's my
Okay.
favorite cover for sure.
Okay.
Because I imagine that's what Ozzy looked like Sunday morning, like after a show at the Garden.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Dave mentioned, in 2019, this was certified 5 times platinum, which is a pretty big jump for an album of that time period, of that genre. You know, we were calling heavy metal underground at that time, right? I was a kid. I was a little kid at that time. But even though it was underground, and even though you weren't going to turn on the radio and hear these songs, they were selling albums. They were packing concerts in stadiums. It was bigger than the mainstream wanted it to be, I think. So, yeah. Okay, let's jump into the individual guys. I'm going to start with Randy. Dave actually, for the first time, has offered us some interesting facts on Randy himself.
I don't usually give you interesting facts.
Yeah, well, about the individual guy,
Jesus.
you don't usually go into the individual
Ouch.
guys.
Ouch.
So the reason for that, and let's think about it, is that, you know, what can you say about Randy? He's one of the most celebrated guitarists of all times, despite having one of the shortest careers of a guitarist of all time.
Yep.
So of course, Dave, a guitarist, will pick that out and bring us all the story. Um, so he had a classical guitar education and is considered one of the founders of the neoclassical metal movement. Yngwie was mentioned already, a part of that same movement. Um, the guitar, the Jackson Rhodes guitar, was commissioned by him, and he's been included in several published greatest guitarist lists, and has been cited by pretty much every guitarist as their major influence. You could say that without him at all, the metal scene and the guitar scene as we know it may have been a lot blander. And had he lived, imagine what he would have done for guitar in the
Oh,
future.
I would
Just,
have loved to have heard some modern day Randy Rhoads,
yeah,
what he would have morphed into. Dave,
amazing.
we've said this before. Who did the finger tapping first? I mean, do we know who did it first?
Between who?
Randy and Eddie. I mean, these are the two
I
guys that
think
are
Eddie
known.
did
Well,
it first.
Eddie was out first,
Yeah,
but I mean, there was guys that tapped on guitar in the 1930s
You know what I
before
mean,
Eddie
though.
was even born.
Like the solo for Crazy Train or Eruption. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like the refined metal finger tapping.
Yeah, no, like Eddie did it first,
Okay.
and I think a lot of that stuff, Randy did just more because it was expected of him because that was, the Guitar Hero kind of shit to do, and it wasn't necessarily
But see,
everything that he wanted to do, but
the reason I ask is because, we were talking about which album came out first. And like you had said, Van Halen's album came out first, but I can't remember if Eddie was finger tapping on that first album or if he was just going more
oh, he
straight
did.
rock and roll.
No, he did.
He did. Okay. So
Right.
there you go. Then we have to give it to Eddie. Okay. I'm sorry. Keep going. It's my job to interrupt you guys. So doing a great job.
all
Keep
right.
going.
His mother, Dolores, as Dave had said, was a musician. She was a professional piano player and owned a music school. She taught him to read music. She was responsible for changing a policy at UCLA, which had said a woman could not be first chair in the brass section of their band. And she was responsible for changing that.
Wow. It's pretty
His
misogynistic.
right.
Oof.
His father was also a musician and a music teacher. His first band was called The Whore.
Nice.
With one
Hard
of his
line.
childhood friends, yeah. They rehearsed at Rodney Bingenheimer's English Disco, a famous club on the Sunset Strip in the 1970s and I believe early 80s. He was actually Rodney was actually responsible for several Strip glam clubs and may have been responsible for what is called the glitter movement in LA at the time.
Yeah, Rockin' Rodney.
Yeah, exactly. He was in a cover band called Violet Fox, where they played Mississippi Queen and some Rolling Stones and Alice Cooper covers. He graduated high school early to pursue music teaching music. He ended up in a band called Little Women, who would eventually change their name to Quiet Riot. And they became one of the most successful bands in LA at the time. In 79, he auditioned for Ozzy, which, as Dave said, he basically just set his stuff up and was like tuning. And Ozzy was like, yeah, you're in the band. He would later complain basically that he was confused and thought that Ozzy, who was drunk, didn't really hear him. But Ozzy would later say, and continue to say throughout his life, at how amazed and enthralled he was with Rhodes playing. There is a really touching video from Ozzy. I believe it was in 2022 during the during the recording of his most recent studio album, where they played for Ozzy the isolated guitar tracks from Randy from back in the day, cleaned up a little bit, from the studio. And Ozzy was tearing up and just absolutely gobsmacked at how amazing Randy was. And it was so many years ago. So beautiful
Touching.
video if you can
Yeah.
find that. He thought he was joining a band called Blizzard of Ozz, as Dave has told us. He actually was joining to be the backup band for a solo artist. He almost left the band several times, including when Kerslake and Daisley were fired and replaced, one by Sarzo, his former bandmate.
There it
And
is.
once when he said he was going to pursue a master's degree at UCLA for classical guitar. It's speculated by his family that if he hadn't died, that this was the route he would have taken. He would have left the band soon anyway, and he made it clear he was not staying past the end of his contract, which was ending soon, mainly because Ozzy wasn't fit to perform and canceled many gigs often due to his substance issues. We've talked about the plane crash already. Devastating time and shocking thing, I think, for everyone. Since his death, there have been countless tributes, albums, musics, dedications to him, including obviously the tribute album, but certainly not just that. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He was inducted by Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, that said, you could study Randy's songs in a university level musicology class and bang your head to them in a 7-Eleven parking lot, which I
Yes,
think is
indeed.
pretty fitting.
Indeed.
Yeah. This year, on the 43rd anniversary of his death, Ozzy paid tribute to him, basically online in a post. And I think really just misses his friend above everything else. So yeah, so that's Randy.
Wait, from what I understand, I thought George Lynch was very close to getting it. Dave, wasn't he very close to getting this gig?
I didn't read much about that. The only George Lynch connection was he was in the scene, and I think Randy was friendly with him, and that the custom guitar made by Carl Sandoval, George Lynch had one initially, and Randy had tried it, and that's what made him go to that guy to get his Flying V made, the polka dot one.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's possible that George Lynch had been close at some point to getting
I'm pretty
the
sure
Ozzy
that I
gig.
had read some Lynch interviews where he had said that he had tried out and they were kind of dangling the gig in front of him, and then he lost it, like one of these last minute type things. I could
Oh,
be
it's
wrong,
possible.
but I think I like the album better with Randy. Sorry, Lisa, keep going.
No, that's fine. Moving on to Bob Daisley, the bass player and backing vocalist. He started playing guitar at 13, played in his first band, and recorded his first album and his first several projects as a guitar player while still a teenager. He joined a band called Chicken Shack, which
Nice.
as I understand, was a big deal at the time in Australia. I think it was where he lived. He was in Widowmaker, Rainbow, as Dave has gone through, and then he met Ozzy and decided to form a new band with him. Another report that this was a band and not a solo project.
I like it better
um,
as a solo project. I don't think it would have taken off as much if it had been a band. You guys?
well, I think like Yngwie, Ozzy needed to be the center,
Yeah. Yep.
And even when you think of Black Sabbath was a band, but who do you think of? Ozzy.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it just
Um,
works.
it just works, yeah. He ended up being the co-writer, and if you ask him, the main lyricist on the album. He was fired from the band before the second album was released, and despite playing on it, Sarzo received all the credits for playing not a single note on the album.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, really
That's
fucked
fucked
up.
up. And you're saying that Bob Daisley wrote he claims to have written most of these lyrics?
Yes, he claims he was the main lyricist, basically taking Ozzy's ideas and, forming them into songs. That's what he
Into
claims.
coherent lyrics.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm editing that fact out of my mind. That never happened. That never happened. That it was all Ozzy. It was
Yeah.
all Ozzy. It was all Ozzy. Okay,
Yeah.
we're good. Keep going.
Yeah. He and Kerslake sued Ozzy for royalties, and their suit was dismissed
Hmm.
twice, actually. This is the part where Sharon kind of re-released everything without Ozzy's knowledge, supposedly. And according to Wiki, Daisley continued to return to the Osbourne camp to write and record for several albums throughout the 1980s, playing on or writing for Bark at the Moon, Ultimate Sin, and No Rest for the Wicked. He maintained his working relationship with the Osbournes up until 1991's No More Tears album, which featured his bass playing on all tracks. Mike Inez, who later joined Alice in Chains, appeared in the album's promotional videos in his place.
I love Alice in Chains. I know you guys don't, but fuck do I love that fucking band.
Dave likes them. You like them, right?
I like them okay, but
Just okay.
just okay.
I fucking love them.
Yeah, he had a long career playing with Uriah Heep, Gary Moore, and later, the irony, Black Sabbath. He's worked with Yngwie and with Jeff Watson from Night Ranger, with whom he started the band Mother's Army. He also released an album that contains 6 covers from the first 2 Ozzy albums with Kerslake. He has an extensive record as a session bassist with a long list of appearances in all sorts of albums that you would be surprised were him. According to his website, he is still writing and playing, including with Angry Anderson of Rose Tattoo. Yep, and King Cobra, and also Cactus. Although when I went and looked at King Cobra and Cactus's websites and wikis, he isn't mentioned as a member of any of those bands, but very well could be their session, bass player. Yeah.
Rose Tattoo. We got to get them on the show.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Lee Kerslake on drums. Unfortunately, he has passed as well. At age 11, he began playing drums and got his first professional gig with the Gods in 1969, going on to record 3 albums with that band. He later played with Toe Fat and National Headband. Toe Fat.
Oh shit.
Yep. That's almost as bad as Hard Lard.
That is. It's like the fucking follow-up album.
Yeah. Before he linked up with Uriah Heep in 1971. He joined Ozzy in 1980, again saying he was joining a band and not backing of a solo artist. So, third report of that there. We've already heard about the lawsuit and everything. He basically was pretty close with Daisley as far as all of that stuff. He remembers repeatedly having to speak to Sharon about Ozzy's inability to play. So Ozzy would decide that he couldn't play. He was, too inebriated. And Ozzy would ask Lee to go tell Sharon that he couldn't play. Because Ozzy didn't want to tell Sharon himself. So she would constantly be extremely mad at Lee. Yeah. He left the band in 1981 of his own accord to care for his sick mom. He continued to play for years, also with Daisley, with Uriah Heep, but he left the band in 2007 over health concerns. His solo album, which came out in 2015, is called 11teen. In 2018, Kerslake and a woman named Talia Goodman, who was a filmmaker, started to make a documentary on his life to tell his story and to leave some money for his wife, Sue. He apparently already knew at the time that he was quite sick with prostate cancer. He had been told 5 years prior that he had 4 years to live.
Oh, no.
He also had some issues with his heart, arthritis, and other things. According to Wiki, Kerslake revealed that it was his final wish to receive the platinum album certifications for the Blizzard of Ozz and the Diary of Madman albums that he had worked on. And Ozzy granted that wish. Kerslake wrote a letter to Ozzy informing him of his health and his desire to receive the records, and he received them from Ozzy. There's a beautiful photo of him posing with the records and his letter from Ozzy, and it's nice to see that his wish was granted.
That's cool.
He passed in September 2020 of prostate cancer, which had spread to his bones, and he was 73. He and his wife Susan have 2 kids. Don Airey on keyboards. His dad was a piano player. He studied at the Royal Manchester College of Music and was classically trained, which probably worked really well for Randy.
Yeah.
He spent 2 years playing in a band on cruise ships. So,
Ooh, right up
yeah,
your alley.
right up my alley. Yep. He's probably more famous for being the keyboardist of Deep Purple than he is to be associated with Ozzy. He insists that he was the only person to ever quit Rainbow of his own volition.
Nice.
Yeah, he's worked with Gary Moore, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Jethro Tull, Whitesnake, Michael Schechner, and so many more. He was in the core band for Andrew Lloyd Webber's album Variations, which was a set of variations on a theme by Paganini. He was a session musician on countless albums. You can scroll through Wiki forever, seeing all of his placements. He also was the only witness to Randy Rhoads' accident and death.
Oh,
The only eyewitness. Yep.
yikes.
A year ago, in an interview, he shared that this incident still haunts him. He saw the whole thing unfold. He says it's still too painful for him to talk about the tragic incident. It was the most awful thing that ever happened. To witness something like that, it had a profound effect on me.
I'm
He won't
sure.
speak about the details, even though some of the details have been shared, from the responding paramedics and all of that, which we won't go into. Um, on the 18th of January 2017, he was inducted into the Hall of Heavy Metal History. He has a brother, Keith Airy, who played guitar who now currently plays guitar for Nick Kershaw, and is the lead guitarist for the London stage show Mamma Mia. He is active on social media, and
Here we go again.
yeah, he's active on social media, and he has a new album called Push to the Edge that released last month.
Cool.
Mhm.
Point of No Return. Fun fact, my favorite
Yeah.
Deep Purple song. So good.
Okay, we have to go into Ozzy now. The
Let's hear it.
Prince of Darkness. What can you say about the Prince of Darkness? We could probably do 4 shows just on facts about Ozzy, so I'm going to try to condense it down to just some of the highlights.
Okay.
I'm going to skip over the ones that Dave has shared about Black Sabbath. Um, Something interesting that I saw was that Black Sabbath has now 13 studio albums. Ozzy's solo career has 13 studio albums. Ooh. Yeah, I know. Ozzy has sold over 100 million albums. That is a achievement very few people, especially solo artists, can say. His manager and second wife Sharon met when her father was his manager, and instrumented his firing from Black Sabbath. Her involvement in his career broke her relationship with her father, which became absolutely brutal until his much later diagnosis with Alzheimer's, where she cared for him and paid for his treatment until his death. She has a reputation for being cutthroat and difficult. She's also credited with keeping Ozzy relevant. So, is it good? Is it bad? I mean,
It's good. It's
yeah, she
good.
definitely kept him, in the forefront of everything, reinventing his career with the reality show with Odd. She supposedly was the creator of Ozfest, at least according to her, and all of his other appearances, keeping his career going through his struggles with drugs and alcohol, often being kind of his mouthpiece and spokesperson when he was unable to speak, and generally keeping the family together. Her very public struggle with colorectal cancer was featured on their reality show. Their relationship has been very long and has had ups and downs. It's complicated when you're in a relationship with an artist, right? I mean, it just is. And, they've been together a long time, so good and bad. She shared his repeated infidelity, sex addiction, and his long term 4-year affair with hairstylist Michelle Pugh, who claims Ozzy was the love of her life. Michelle shared with People magazine intimate details of her love for him and how he treated her, while also saying that she would never give intimate details or exploit it for monetary gain. In People magazine.
Nice.
Yeah. This broke Sharon and Ozzy's relationship, but they seem to have been able to repair it and have gone forward. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of Black Sabbath in 2006, as a solo artist in 2024, which was a huge celebration if you saw it. He was also inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame, both as a solo artist and with Black Sabbath in 2005. He's been honored with stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and the Birmingham Walk of Stars. At a 2014 MTV Europe Music Awards, he received the Global Icon Award. In 2015, he received the Ivor Novello Award for Lifetime Achievement from the British Academy of Songwriters, Composers, and Authors.
Sounds like that should have gone to Bob Daisley or whatever his name was.
Yeah. He was introduced to a new generation in 2000 when his reality show, The Osbournes, was a smash hit. The show, which was not the first reality show of all time, like maybe back The Real World on MTV, I think was the
Yeah.
first structured reality show.
Think so.
Yeah, although some people would say that shows like That's Incredible and some of the others were before that.
I think there was a PBS show
Yeah.
in the 70s that was
Yeah.
technically, but anyway.
Yeah.
Wasn't that with Fran Tarkington? That's incredible.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite shows back
I used to love
then.
that show too.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So this show became a staple of reality TV. But his show was, we could call the first what they call a celebrity story or docu-soap, I think was the new genre at the time. At the same year, Anna Nicole Smith had her show, the Anna Nicole Smith Show. So that would have been 2002. So it was kind of a new genre for everything. And it kind of led to shows like Kardashians
The Nick
and
Lachey show.
yeah, and just a host of shows about celebrities. So he was kind of a pioneer, or Sharon was, if she was the one that organized it.
It was her. He's not smart enough to do that.
Yeah, the show introduced most of Ozzy's family, and made each of them a household name well beyond the fans of his music. Ozzy's incoherent mumbling, which most of his fans had heard many times in interviews, was a shock to this new group of fans who were just being introduced to him. His wife Sharon was basically the centerpiece of the show, and this would bring his career into multiple types of media and hers as well, including talk shows and hosting jobs and producing. So Kelly, the daughter, who had addiction issues of her own, she did some hosting, had a music career. She had 2 albums, with her first album charting in the UK and her second album hitting #2 in the US, as well as charting in the UK. She's been on Dancing with the Stars, Fashion Police, The Talk, and a ton of other appearances on reality TV and talk shows. We were also introduced to his son Jack, who struggled with addiction himself pretty publicly, but who has raised a lovely family and done lots of hosting work, including a travel show with his dad.
Wait, and the fucking that show they did like about paranormal stuff and
Yeah,
shit. I
yeah.
love that show.
I love that show too. He's great. Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Their eldest daughter, Amy, decided not to appear on the show and limits her interaction with fame and the public. The list of artists that Ozzy has not worked with would be shorter than the list of artists that Ozzy has worked with. He's always surrounded himself with lineups of talented musicians, and he also loves to poke fun at himself as a metal icon and as an aging rocker. He seems to have a good sense of humor, but as we know, he has struggled severely with addictions of all kinds. Um, the first evidence of this, obviously, was his ejection from Black Sabbath, and his problems performing over the years, canceling lots of gigs almost last minute when he has been unable to play. He himself has shared with his struggles with addiction. I'm not like outing him or something like that, with alcohol and cocaine.
Yeah.
The beginning of his solo career, it was supposed to be a new band. We kind of talked about this. Um, the news is, and several articles that I've read and the other band members have all claimed that this was kind of concoction of his quote unquote management. Now, Sharon is his manager. So that's his wife. So she kind of decided that he was now a solo act, even though the guys were told that they were becoming part of a new band. And if you think about it, being in a solo act versus a band changes the contracts. It changes who owns the trademarks. It changes who gets the royalties, right? So that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But as Dave had said, they felt they were in no position to complain, especially considering the success that they were experiencing. And at the time, it's not like they weren't paid. They definitely were. And being a working musician was important. So are you going to argue with that if you're in the band, if that was you, Dave?
Nope.
You're way
Yeah.
more replaceable and forgettable when you're
Yeah.
playing in somebody's solo project.
Right. Yep. The band has had its share of controversies. The satanic imagery being demonized by the media basically throughout its career. The most famous incident, which incidentally occurred on my 9th birthday, was where Ozzy bit the head off a live bat during a show.
Awesome.
He would later share that it was an accident, as he believed it was a prop. But the media ran with the satanic ritual sacrifice story, and everyone forever remembered his name. As a side note, the bat bit him, and he was treated for rabies. So, yeah. Nowadays, this incident is remembered as a wild moment of 80s decadence. Ozzy memorialized this incident as recently as 2019, when on its anniversary, he started selling bat toys with removable heads on his merch site.
I love it.
Another incident where he urinated on the Alamo while drunk in 1982 caused him to be banned from the San Antonio for a decade. On this same day, he was so drunk, he fired the entire band, including Randy, and had physically attacked Randy and Rudy Sarzo in the hotel that morning.
Nice. Nuts.
Yep. The Motley Crue Nikki Sixx book and movie The Dirt features a crazy scene with Ozzy snorting red ants and drinking his own urine, competing with Nikki to be the weirdest and wildest one of the group. The entire Motley Crue band claims that this is the absolute truth, but Ozzy has zero memory of the event. The band Motley Crue also claims that Ozzy won, and they could never top his weirdness.
I'm sure. I'm sure he has decades he can't remember.
Yeah. In 1989, after the Moscow Music Festival, Sharon claims he tried to strangle her, which sent him to rehab for 6 months. Some other controversies for the band. Teenager John McCollum took his own life while listening to the song Suicide Solution, which incidentally was about Ozzy's struggle with alcohol, and he was sued civilly and won. The lawyer said he should be sued criminally. He never was.
That's
He
so
was
ridiculous.
he was sued again for the same song in 1991 and won again. Um, uh, he's been sued obviously over quite a few things, but these were some interesting ones. He's also been involved in litigation over the ownership of the Black Sabbath trademark, which ended without a decision in 2021 when he and Tony Iommi decided to give up the fight. Um, on October 8th, 2003, Osbourne was rushed into the emergency room, where he had an accident with a quad bike on his estate. This was a pretty serious accident, if you remember the news at the time. He broke his collarbone, 8 ribs, his neck. He also stopped breathing and needed to be revived.
Shit.
This was an extremely long recovery. This incident has caused him continuing issues with his neck and back and issues with walking, and it has caused issues with his memory and concentration, which I think became evident through the years in interviews and things like that. In 2019, he was hospitalized for an extended time with the flu. He's had falls, pneumonia, and been diagnosed with Parkinson's, which ultimately has stolen his ability to walk. He also has emphysema due to smoking. However, he is still making music today. His most recent studio album in 2022, his 13th album, as we said before, Patient Number 9, features his artwork in the videos that he drew himself with his own hand. This year, on February 14th, rock guitarist Billy Morrison and Ozzy re-released the epic single Gods of Rock and Roll. We actually talked about this on our last episode with Cinderella, because a large portion of the song was an orchestral movement from the Budapest Scoring Orchestra, which was scored by Fred Coury from Cinderella. The song also features Steve Stevens, and there's great footage of Stevens playing his solo with the orchestra in the video.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the original song was from a decade ago on Morrison's second album. But the song now, when it was re-released last month or February, 2 months ago, almost seems like a little bit of a goodbye from Ozzy if you read the lyrics and kind of get the feeling from that.
It's time. Goodbye,
Yeah.
Ozzy.
Yeah. He's made countless appearances on TV, movies, musical performances, video games like World of Warcraft, Guitar Hero. Too many to list. He's done tons of charity work, mainly focused on cancer after watching his wife suffer her own battle. What do you say? He's an icon. He's a legend. we could do 10 shows and not cover everything. So that's about all I'm going to say.
He was in
So-
Trick or Treat.
He was in Trick or
Dude,
Treat.
Dave,
Yeah.
you stole my thunder
Yeah.
there.
Ah,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah.
He was awesome in Trick or Treat.
Where has he not been? So, yeah.
All right, so there you go, guys. You now know all you need to know about this album. Let's get into some quick opening thoughts, and then we will break the album down for you. We'll get it started. So I grew up listening to this album, obviously, just like everybody else is probably listening to the show. But it's been forever since I put it on and listened to it from beginning to end, right? So my question isn't, is it any good? Of course it's good. My question is this a complete album from start to finish? Let's find out. Dave.
Oh, got a little story. It was probably about 7th grade, 1987. Ozzy was the king of metal. Even a green kid like me stepping into the pool of heavy metal music for the first time could see that he was important. My cousin John was a year or two older than me, and he was into Ozzy and Maiden, and I used to like to follow his lead on situations of style. I'd also recently gotten into playing guitar, and even though, spoiler alert, the legendary guitarist Randy Rhoads had passed away several years earlier, he was still revered as a guitar god and was spoken about frequently in the guitar magazines I devoured looking for information on my new guitar obsession.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I bought the album on cassette from the cutout bin at one of the record stores in the Woodbridge Center Mall in New Jersey.
Violent Records.
My parents were overprotective, and I knew they'd freak if I brought home an Ozzy Osbourne tape. He might as well have been Satan himself. So I kept that tape in my school locker. And later, when I decided to chance sneaking it into my collection at home, I took a knife and scraped off the lettering of the cassette to try to hide the identity of the tape.
Dude, you're killing me
So-
with this story.
Fuck yeah, I've heard this album before.
He used to hide it in his fucking locker at school, everybody. And then he snuck it into the house.
And that was 87 too. That wasn't even 80 when it came out.
Holy
Yep.
shit,
Yeah.
dude. That is fucking awesome. Lisa.
So I've heard this. This album, along with the Bark at the Moon album, were my brother's favorites. And my brother passed in 2005. And next week we are coming up on that 20th anniversary. So this was a interesting timing for this pick. Thank you, Des, for all the tears that I shed this past 2 weeks.
There you go. We will dedicate it to your brother then, the show.
Yeah. Back in the day was, before streaming, before MTV, you either heard it on the radio or you bought the album, right? There was no other way to hear music. And when you bought the album, you didn't have the money to buy every album. So you bought, you listened to what you bought over and over and over again. You knew every word, you knew every note, you knew basically everything.
Yep.
I didn't hear it right from its infancy because I was like really young then. But when I did get my hands on a copy, my mom had bought it for me. My parents,
Different
Opposite
parenting
story
here.
of me.
Different parenting.
my parents were really open with music and would buy me pretty much whatever I chose. My dad being a musician, he didn't believe in censorship. I remember back in the day how he remembered back in the day how controversial his favorite Johnny Cash was, which was a scandal back in his day. So he wanted to make sure that I got the music that I wanted to hear. This also was just around the time of the publication of a book called Michelle Remembers. This book was about a supposed satanic ritual abuse and a survivor of that who reclaimed buried memories and sparked the satanic panic of the 1980s. That garbage pseudoscience led to a bizarre fight against satanic imagery, fake science parading as real science, and a stream of censorship and congressional hearings. Ozzy was right in the center of all of this. I remember being at a church function. Yes, that was me at like 8 or 9 years old before I left the church. And the church showed a movie to the youth of the church about satanic music and how bad it was. And I remember thinking, geez, that's so freaking cool.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Nice.
I have lots of memories of Ozzy's music, but I would say a lot of his early solo work blends together for me. The first three albums, this one, Diary of a Madman and Bark at the Moon, I couldn't remember the exact song lists on each one. I had to actually go look up to see which songs were on which album. And by the time the later 80s came around and the glam bands had taken over, he never lost his spot in my rotation, despite the fact that the glam bands were coming in. My brother stayed with this genre moving forward to like Pantera and Overkill and bands like that. I moved on to like more black metal, goth, electro, and glam. Um, as a kid, I didn't understand the controversy of Black Sabbath. I just knew him as Prince of Darkness. I've seen him countless times, even during his deepest addiction. One show he was co headlining with Alice Cooper at the Orpheum in Boston. And while he did sing all the songs and never missed a word, he basically just stood in the middle of the stage clapping and trying to get the audience to clap with him, which I found really odd. Drugs are bad.
I probably stole this album from Caldors. Fucking listened to it drinking one of my mother's beers while she was off doing whatever she did. So there you go. It's a little insight to all of our childhoods. Probably take Dave's if I had to choose, but there you go. Cool. Right. Let's rate the singer. Geez, that last thing you just said about him standing in the stage and clapping is kind of fucking with my my singer rating here, but
That was just a short period of time during the deepest part of his addiction, though.
right.
That wasn't always.
That's kind of how I remember him on stage. So let's rate the singer as always. It's 1 through 100, 25 on hair, 25 on style, and 50% on vocal talent. We'll get it started. So Ozzy was a different kind of animal. It wasn't about fluffy looks or flashy clothes. It was his attitude, the stories, biting heads off bats. It was his attitude. It was his lifestyle. And of course, the catalog of songs that hit all Ozzy fans close to home. So for me, I believe Ozzy has earned my score of 100. Was he the best stage guy? Fuck no. It's fucking Ozzy Osbourne, okay? It's 100. It's Ozzy Osbourne. Dave, go ahead.
I've got a similar story here. Ozzy never had great hair. It was usually long, except for the bat incident, and he had to get rabies shots, and all his hair fell out. But it was always kind of sloppy looking, not super stylish. So I'm giving him a 15 on hair, 20 on style and stage presence. He's got that clapping and headbanging and wander around the stage a little during the guitar solo. Not a crazy bag of tricks, but hey, it's freaking Ozzy. Full 50 on vocal, not because he's the greatest singer, but he's got a super identifiable voice. He's the godfather of metal and really knows how to surround himself with top-notch talent. Randy Rhoads, Rudy Sarzo, Jakey Lee, Randy Castillo, Zach Wilde. Again, come on, it's freaking Ozzy. Score is an 85 total.
I love it. Dave, that was such bullshit about his hair falling out for the rabies thing. So quickly, my cat was attacked by a rabid raccoon years ago, and I
Aw.
went out and the cat was fine, actually. I broke it
Mm.
up real quick, but I got the raccoon saliva in a cut
No.
on my arm from my cat when I picked it up. So
Did you have to go through the treatments?
yes, so I went
Oh,
to the
those are
hospital
horrible.
that day and the doctor said, "Look, here's the deal. Can't test you for rabies. So like either you start the shots right now or you come back tomorrow and there's nothing we can do for you."
Yep.
And he's like, "I'm not gonna lie to you." He's like, "It's not gonna be fun." So the first day I went in, they laid me down on my stomach and they injected me with a few shots. And one of them has to go like the shot has to go in really deep, like into your muscles. And I remember just sitting there drooling onto the table because it was just so painful. And I had to go back and get these shots. Like I can't, this was back in the mid 90s. I can't remember what the time frame was, but I had to keep going back like every 2 weeks. And I would get the shots and they would make me really sick, like I had the flu. And yeah, I went through that. And did I have rabies from the spit getting in the cut? I'll never know. But the doctor was like, "Dude, don't chance it." He's like, "Because tomorrow we can't help you." I was like, "Fuck." Lisa, have you ever had rabies?
No, thankfully.
Okay.
Uh, This has been the hardest episode so far. How do you rate like the literal Prince of Darkness?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Inspiration, yeah, inspiration for so many musicians. One of the earliest creators of a genre, hugely long career. Um, Let's look at him in 1981, though. That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? So he
Yes.
is heavily into drugs at this time, but he's still young. So it hasn't taken a massive toll on him, on his looks or on his ability to perform. He's relatively in shape, often performs shirtless, as he will continue to do, even when the drugs run him down. He's not yet injured within this time frame. The shows are not limited by his injuries. Um, that we're having some crazy incidents during the show, like the bat thing and the dove story. Um, these albums, they come out quickly, one after another, these first three albums. So there's a lot of music for him to play at the time. He's got okay hair. He's got that long shag haircut that suits him. It's a bit ahead of his time, honestly, for 1980, while other bands weren't nearly as cool as that. Although looking back at it now, it seems very dated with the fringe and all of
With the
that.
big tattoo on his chest of
With
the
the big
screaming.
tattoo on his
Yeah,
chest,
fuck yeah.
yeah,
Fucking
yeah.
Ozzy.
He's got a great accent. His words are still clear at this time. His onstage chemistry and respect for Randy Rhoads really made the shows dynamic. He can command arenas full of people, wears theatrical robes and costumes sometimes. Is he the most melodic singer? Maybe not. They even left some of his mistakes in the album to prove this, but he's vocally unique, recognizable in a way that many singers aren't. He's a songwriter, and he sings songs that fit his voice. He has a great metal grit to his voice, and while he's not some virtuoso, there's something about it that can't be compared to or touched. As he aged, he never lost his cool. Even at the ripe age of 76, he's still the Prince of Darkness, and he can still fill stadiums, which very, very, very few people or bands can say that. Only the cream of the crop can. Sure, he's had some rough go of it, especially in his private life. But after some nearly life-ending injuries, he's still my metal and gothic grandfather. Even though he'll tell you he's not goth, I'm giving him a score of 98.
98. Ooh, he's number one now. Lisa, will you please add up the scores and tell us where that lands Ozzy Osbourne on the Violent
Sure.
Vinyl frontman leaderboard?
On the Violent Vinyl frontman leaderboard, Ozzy Osbourne, and this would be in 1980-81 at the time of the Blizzard of Ozz album, gets a total score of 94.33, which puts him at number 2
Oh,
on our list,
no.
below Steven Tyler and above Sebastian Bach.
I like that. I
Mm.
like that. Steven Tyler, man, come on. The vocals give him the nod there. All right, so there it is. This can be a long episode. So
Mm.
we're going to get into the tracks now. Track number uno, I Do Not Know, is the name of this track. So Dave, like I said, the guitar sound was a little thinner than I remembered it. But I mean, you can hear every note Randy's playing, but I really remembered his sound being more like Eddie Van Halen's sound. It's not. Now let's address the elephant in the room. This bass, it is fucking incredible. On this song, this guy is playing his fucking ass off, and I was blown away by it. And the producer pushes this bass right up front on this album. It's almost louder than the drums, honestly. And it works because it's just so fucking good. Ozzy, killer lyrics, killer vocals, and finally retreated to the first killer Randy Rhoads solo. This song is fucking awesome. Dave.
Here's a blockbuster opening, deep gong or something that sounds like a jet plane with Randy's guitar buzzsawing right into your ears. Good tempo for an opener. They even break down to a mellow bridge before the killer solo. The song supposedly depicts the confusion and sadness that Ozzy felt after he was fired from Black Sabbath. We're off to a good start.
Yes, we are, Lisa.
This song is Ozzy's second most performed song of all time. Basically an instant classic. Great opening for the album. I remembered every word. I'm surprised because I don't go out of my way to listen to Ozzy anymore because it makes me cry. But great lyrics, the eternal questions, searching for answers. Ozzy's being honest and saying he doesn't know, which would be a trend in his life and his family going forward.
Yes.
One of the lines, "Life's a stage and we're all in the cast." Beautiful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. The production on this album is great for the time period. His songs, I think, have aged well. Even though they've been remastered, I actually prefer listening to this version of the song than any of the other cleaned up versions that will come in the future. We got a great chorus with a hook you can immediately sing to and remember. There's a beautiful instrumental. I'm calling it a bridge because it's a bridge, but it's more than that. It completely changes the entire mood of the song. It feels like a new verse, not just a short little interlude. This song, this album are what defined metal going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a purist. I always look for the original works when I'm looking for albums like this. And same with movies, like the original Star Wars, A New Hope. I don't
Hmm.
want to see anything done to it. I
Yeah.
want to see it with the little Vaseline smudge under the land speeder. That's how I want to see it. So I'm the same as you guys. Track number two, Crazy Train. So I tried to listen to this as if I had never heard it before. That's how I wanted to do it. And that's how I tried to listen to this whole album. And for the first six songs, I was getting emotional. Like I literally saw myself on the couch, like welling up at times, like, oh my God, this is so good. Um, Immediately on this song, the production is much better than the first song. It's warmer. It just isn't quite so like jarringly tinny. I'm not going to wax poetic on the song. We all know what it is. Let's just say it's a perfect song from this vibra slap intro to this iconic solo, wrapped up in some of the best metal lyrics ever. This is a 110-watt song all fucking day long. Dave.
Yeah, I've played this one on stage many, many times with the Sunset Strippers.
Nice.
The riff known to guitar players from 11 to 70. You can hear it any random Saturday in any guitar shop anywhere.
Yep.
Let's see, opens with Ozzy's All Aboard call with the bass and the drums and the Randy's killer riff. There's a reason kids still learn this today. It was the first single from the album, and the lyrics, according to Wikipedia, deal with the subject of the Cold War and the fear of annihilation that existed during that period. I peaked at number 9 on the Billboard US mainstream rock chart in 1980-81. The song was re-released, like we talked about, with a music video in 1987 as a live version from the live album titled Tribute, which has live concert recordings from 1981 featuring Randy's guitar playing. Definitely check that out. It's playing is slightly different live than the studio versions. And then getting back to the album version, of course, killer guitar solo.
I mean, I think this song and like Welcome to the Jungle, maybe two of the most played songs like ever, because you hear them at every football game. You hear them at every hockey game. You hear them fucking everywhere. These little
Mm-hmm.
snippets of these two songs. Fucking crazy, man. Imagine the royalties you're getting paid for these songs, like Axel and whoever owns the rights. It's Sharon Osbourne, I'm assuming. Like every time it plays anywhere, you're getting a check.
Yeah.
Lisa.
Okay. I'm already crying. So I was going
Yeah.
to say, I have to get through this without crying. This is the song that I associate with my brother. Um, there's no more recognizable opening than the beginning of this song in metal at all.
Nope.
Ozzy's laugh, the left right of his voice coming in through the speakers,
So
the vibra-slap snake rattle, one of the best opening guitar riffs of any song. This might be one of the greatest metal songs of all time. It's hard to pick one, but I think this is definitely in contention for number one spot.
yes.
Now, I know every word to this song, and I always have, but I never really took the time to think about the lyrics for this song until this podcast. They're more complex than I expected. Expanding on the theme from the first song, inheriting craziness from the previous generations. In his immortal words, maybe it's not too late to learn how to love and forget how to hate.
So good.
Fantastic bridge in the song, a complete change in key, great vocal performance, change in feel, but still meshing with the song perfectly. Um, I know things are going wrong for me. The bridge. I know things are going wrong for me. You got to listen to my words. Um, and leading into that great Randy Rhoads guitar solo, Shredder, when shredding was in its infancy, so many guitar players count him as an inspiration because of solos like this. Not to mention some of the licks that are behind the chorus in this song, really cool. We get some nice isolated drums at the end and the classic laugh, which I didn't know is actually lyrics, where at the end he says, the ledge, the edge, the edge. I didn't know that.
Oh,
There is an official video for this, but it wasn't released until 1987. We get Ozzy with his short, spiky punk hair, which is actually a pretty good look for him. The footage of Ozzy almost looks like it's animated, but really it's just very, very washed out footage. It reminded me a little bit of Aha's Take on Me line drawings in the, in the animation sequence.
mhm.
It's interspersed with some live footage of Randy. It really seems like a tribute to Randy, and it's quite lovely. I imagine this was one of the thousands of ways of Ozzy paying tribute to his friend who passed 5 years before this video came out. And of course, when the album came out, there really wasn't too much of an option to make a video. So this was the time for it. Even today, Ozzy seems choked up and touched when he sees footage of Randy.
It's such a special album, and the shredding thing, some shredders are just better than others in my mind. And these guys that have these really tasty scales, it's not just all a jumble of notes. I mean, even the guys that jumble notes and are really good at it, like something about a guy like Randy Rhoads or, Warren DeMartini that have these really classy, difficult, technical scales that they can like slip in to break up the jumbled notes. Oh, just I fucking love it. Track number 3, Goodbye to Romance. This is another song built on top of amazing lyrics. And honestly, I think Ozzy's entire career was built on top of amazing lyrics. That is the charm of Ozzy Osbourne. If this one doesn't hit you in the heart, you're fucking dead inside, okay? Laid on the couch, they're like, oh God, see you in the end, right? So good. The song is beautifully written. The solo is classy. Bob Daisley's bass lines on this whole album and on this song are absolute perfection and every bit as virtuoso as Randy's playing on this album. I was blown away by these bass lines. I mean, blown away. I didn't remember this being here. And finally, this little synth end, it's so damn good. This is a great song. Dave.
Yeah, from loudersound.com, this quote, this bittersweet ballad was the first song written for Blizzard. Ozzy mourns the end of his Sabbath days. So it's more Ozzy being bummed out about Black Sabbath, but starts out very melancholy, but at least looks slightly more positive by the end. You have lyrics like, and the weather's looking fine, and I think the sun will shine again. The song itself goes a little bit lighter than the previous two, really nice kind of jazzy chords. The production's a little strange to me. The drums are kind of buried and the bass is a little fuzzy and, chorused, with the guitar pushed, much more up front. Love the guitar playing, but maybe some different production choices could have been made.
It's so great.
As a side note, on the 2010 reissue of this album, there is a guitar and vocal only version of the song that actually works pretty well without the bass and drums. So, check that one out if you can. The guitar solo is maybe my favorite on the album. Very melodic with some fast runs too. I still get goosebumps listening to it. At the end of the album version, there is a keyboard solo that's a little square. I'm not sure if I like that one, but a great song overall. And according to Wikipedia, during the Diary of a Madman tour that began in late 1981 and continued into 1982, Ozzy and his band performed this song live. Around halfway through the song, a staged execution by hanging would take place with a man named John Allen, who is a little person being suspended in the air with a fake noose around his neck. So metal.
When you say little person, do you mean midget?
We don't use that word.
I do. Only when I'm tossing them. Lisa.
They said dwarf on Wikipedia, but I cleaned it up.
Well, dwarf, I think, is the medical term. So I don't know that that's wrong either. Okay. So not only was this the first song written by the band, it was also the first song recorded by the band or by the solo artist, however you frame that. Beautiful opening to this song. It's gentle without being syrupy. And as Dave said, it's intended to be kind of a goodbye song to Black Sabbath. But a lot of people don't know that background for the song. So if you don't know that it's a goodbye to Black Sabbath, you can see a ton of other meanings in this song, which is one of the great things about it. Like, are you saying goodbye to love, a specific person, someone who's passed, like I hear it, to a life you're walking away from, to your life, or whatever else? You can make this song kind of a goodbye to anything, which is one of the beauties of it. We've got some nice acoustic work on this song, but when there's live footage, and there isn't very much live footage, Randy actually plays all of this on electric, with the piano backing. Whereas in the recording, I only hear a little piano, like towards the end. I don't hear it in the middle.
Mhm.
Um, it's a nice example of the way that Ozzy layers his vocals, which will be a common theme throughout his entire career, where he kind of harmonizes with himself and he gets this really full sound. Beautiful lyrics. Do we call this a power ballad? I think so. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more than that. It's more than a power ballad. There's more to this for me. And I am almost going to quote Dave here. This Randy Rhoads solo, my favorite on the album, maybe in the top 10 solos of all times for me. So much emotion to this. We get a beautiful acoustic play out at the end.
Like I said, that solo's the only word I could come up with was classy. It's just
Mm.
so good.
Yep.
It's so good.
Mint.
Okay. Track number 4, D. So this one, such a beautiful, and I am going to call it an interlude into Suicide Solution. I know there is a pause, but it's an interlude. So this is such a beautiful little interlude into Suicide Solution. And I can't help but to think of Cry No More by LA Guns when I listen to it. It doesn't sound like Cry No More, but it gives me that feeling. Dave.
Yes, it's less than a minute total. Acoustic guitar solo written by Randy and dedicated to his mom, Dolores. It's played on both steel string and nylon string acoustic. And even when he was back in Quiet Riot, he would play some of this as part of his live guitar solo. She raised him as a single mom and highly encouraged his pursuit of music, like we talked about. Mrs. Rhodes made it to age 95 when she passed away in 2015.
Nice. Some insight into D.
Hmm.
Lisa, what about D?
Yeah. So, and obviously her name was Dolores. She was called D. And the song is written in the key of D. If you didn't catch
Oh,
that, yep. When Randy first rehearsed to join Ozzy, he recalled Randy's playing as God entering his ears. It makes it ironic that from Randy's point of view, he was just warming up. His brother, Kel or Kelly, I think it's Kelly,
I think it's Kelly.
Kelly Rhodes, has made some statements about this particular song recently. I think it was just a few years ago. He says that the record label wanted to remove this song from the album, but Ozzy went to bat to keep it in. I love classical acoustic guitar. It feels like we're hearing him practicing with absolute perfection. I loved this as a kid. I tried to learn it when my dad bought me my first guitar, since it fit with my classical training. I got about 75% there.
nice. Okay, track number 5, Suicide Solution. Man, if this isn't maybe my favorite song on the album, it's not. Spoiler alert, but it's pretty close. I'm listening to this album and I'm literally godsmacked at this point by its badass perfection. We're 5 songs in and every one has just been like, oh man, this is better than I remember it. Um, it's a compilation of incredible songs, and this one is no different. It carries so much weight from these heavy guitar riffs to this over the top, and I'm talking in 1980, this over the top, dangerous lyric that Ozzy is delivering here. It's crazy. I'm listening to it. I'm just like trying to put myself back in 1980. And I know now why Dave was hiding this tape in his locker at school. His mom just didn't get it. She's like, no, no, we're not going to find my kid upstairs listening to Suicide Solution dead. So yeah, I get it. And again, bass here on this track, it's fucking magical, dude. It really, really is. And the most surprising part is it's magical without locking into the drums because the drums have literally been buried on this album. I didn't talk about it because I didn't even really hear them. They were just there in the back holding it down. I love the echo section and all the vocal panning that they do in here. It's all just fun. It's a great song. Um, Dave, what did you think?
Well, the song deals with the dangers of boozing it up. According to Wikipedia, Osborne said in 1991 that the song was about the alcohol related death of AC/DC's Bon Scott in
Oof.
1980. Bob Daisley revealed in 2002 that he had Ozzy himself in mind when he wrote the lyrics. There are some good lines in here, like, now you live inside a bottle, the Reaper's traveling at full throttle.
So
Great
good.
riff. The guitar solo is more atmospheric and sort of artistically gives you like a seasick, drunken vibe, which works well. We mentioned this before slightly that Ozzy was sued in 1985 for a fan taking his own life. Also from Wikipedia, on November 1st, 1985, a lawsuit against Osborne and CBS Records was filed by the parents of John Daniel McCullum, a 19-year-old who took his own life in Riverside, California in October of 1984, allegedly after listening to the song. The plaintiff's attorneys alleged that a line in the song stated, "Get the gun and shoot." The plaintiffs, however, failed to prove that Osborne had any responsibility for the teenager's death. The victim was suffering from alcohol abuse and emotional problems when he chose to end his life. More information comes from an article on loudwire.com. Judge John Cole said reasonable persons understand musical lyrics and poetic conventions as the figurative expressions which they are. And Cole added that even if Osborne had intended to express that suicide was preferable to the rigors of daily living, he had the constitutional right to make such a statement.
And this
Yes.
was such an important ruling. It set precedent that
Sure.
that artists could create their art, and whatever you do with that art, it's not, no one's telling you to do anything. It's how you interpret it yourself. And there's got, when you take this big of a step, there's other problems surrounding. It's not just you're not a completely healthy person and listen to a song and it makes you do this. So it's a lot of protection in this lawsuit for future artists.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Actually, just watched the story of Bon Scott. It's fucking very
Hmm.
interesting. Yeah, this fucking guy was nuts, man. Good, great, amazing, amazing front man singer, but just wow, the guy was really crazy as fuck, man. He would give Ozzy a run for his money all day, every day. Um,
That's a tour you want to see.
yeah, yeah. I mean, just dude, people get so triggered now about everything. I just wish everybody could just let like this. Like how do we know he was listening to this song? How do we know he was listening to this song? I don't think it's any
But
way
even
of
if he
knowing.
was, it doesn't matter. You
But
can't.
even if he was, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But I'm just saying, how do they know he was listening to this song? We
Yeah.
don't know. We don't know. I think they were trying to cash in on a a tragic situation. It sounds kind of like
Mm.
Lisa.
What more memorable lyrics than the first line of this song? Wine is fine, but whiskey's quicker.
Fuck yeah, it is. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
I remember really loving this song as a kid. It sounded pretty satanic with a lot of that type of symbolism throughout. We got a great metal guitar riff here. No repeating choruses. Each chorus, it has the same melody but completely different lyrics. It's almost like we got bonus verses. It's an arrangement that wasn't very common for that time.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. We get a really creepy bridge with the word Satan repeated over and over in it, which is super cool for me. Common focus of the PMRC and the Satanic Panic of the 1980s, which villainized Ozzy from day one.
Nice.
Um,
Was this one of the Filthy 15 songs?
I don't believe it was, no,
Oh,
but
okay.
definitely if you hear some of the recorded PMRC speeches, I believe even Tipper Gore mentions this song at one point. So
Tipper Gore.
yeah.
Jesus.
We get a really interesting vocal performance at the end of this song where Ozzy's voice appears to crack in a few places. It seems so natural, like a live performance. And I don't necessarily know if they purposely left that in or if it was because they were on a 16 track and they didn't want to go and re record or because it just sounds so cool and natural and fitting for the song. I don't know which it was, but I like it. It's not the only place on this album where they leave in some of his vocal mistakes, which I think is pretty cool and
Mhm.
was much more common in 1980 than if you step forward to 87, where you took as many takes as you took to get it right, you know? Um, we the end of the song, we get a nice jam from the band, some creepy, moody licks from Randy on this play out with a ton of effects.
Yes, good stuff. I'm glad that you mentioned that because I did notice his voice cracking on a couple of like spots on the album, and I didn't put it in my notes. But when you said it, it reminded me of that. I was like, oh yeah, he did. So
Mm-hmm.
cool. So I love that. I wouldn't take him out. I
Yeah, I
like it
wouldn't
like
either.
that.
It's perfect.
Yeah. All right. So that ends side A. So if you're listening to the show on vinyl, go ahead and flip this bitch over, and we will go into our new segment. Should they have made it? Should this band have made it? And this week's subject was Back Alley Sally, brought by me. And I chose No Love as the track to review. I'm kind of wishing I chose one of the other two because this band was really more of like a rock band than a screamer band. But this was the video I wanted to share with you guys. So, first of all, we did get a write in. Jay wrote in and he basically hated the singer, which, Jay, I'm disappointed in you. You're better than that guy. His big gripe was that Mark wasn't a great screamer. And, you know, if someone's going to go for it, he felt like they better have that in their bag. And he just didn't think that Mark brought the scream in the chorus. I disagree. First of all, this video, this is fucking as dirty and sleazy as it gets. Next, the song also as dirty and sleazy as it gets. The way these guys look, oh, I fucking love the way this band looks. I think Mark Stone is one of the coolest singers ever. This guy is fucking, he's like every great black hair fucking sleazy band just smashed into one dude. Vocals, I love them. Lyrics, I love them. The guitar player is ripping a great guitar solo with his wah pedal. For me, this is a 100-watt demo video. So again, we're ranking these things in the demo basic versions. These aren't like real albums, but yeah, man, it's fucking awesome. These guys were super cool. Dave, what'd you think?
All right, so we're reviewing the video. It's black and white. It looks like the band is playing at the site of a demolished building. Oh no, the camera is moving around way too much. I'm getting motion sickness. Riff is fine. If it's even though it's a little simple, the band looks reasonably cool. The singer kind of has a cult Ian Astbury vibe a little bit, and oh my god, what the fuck? He starts screaming in his upper register, and it sounds like Axl Rose tripped over an alley cat. Wow, that is rough. Holy shit.
Shit.
The guitar solo is pretty basic. This guy's no Randy Rhoads, that's for sure. They should have kept the "what makes the world go around" baby part and started over with everything else. 33 and a third watts.
Oh shit.
They
Fuck.
should not have made it. Sorry.
Okay, so I think, like I said to Jay, I think maybe I was watching this through, because this band was close to me back in the day. So I don't know, maybe it was rosy glasses. Lisa, what's
Um,
going on here?
I immediately love the look of this band and the attitude immediately right off the bat. It's so low budget and so gritty and maybe like visually, not musically, but visually like an early LA Guns.
Yeah.
What I see. This is the genre of sleaze rock, right? So this
Right.
isn't intended to be like musical greatness, right? Sleaze rock is intended to be messy. And the chorus feels a little bit like early Axl Rose, and I thought in a good messy way, not in a horrible alley cat way.
I agree.
I, I liked it, yeah. The guitar solo is super gritty and just the right amount of messy. Obviously not a virtuoso here, but it's like the right for this. It's the right one for this genre. The guitarist is the coolest looking one in the band with the black leather tight pants. There might be skinny jeans. I couldn't really tell, and that long straight black hair. The only bad part I had, of course, was the shaky camera work and the spinning. I'm notorious for being like violently motion sick. Even like walking down the street, I can get
Dude,
motion sick.
me
But
too.
if Dave noticed it, then it must be
Yeah,
bad. So
it even bothered me.
yeah. I saw that their album was reissued by Demon Doll Records in 2016, originally selling for $9.99 on this reissue. Right now, you can buy a brand new copy of this CD on Amazon for $299,
Nice.
or used for
Good luck.
$158. I did find concert footage from the band as recently as 2007, so I think that, at least these guys might be playing some music still.
No, 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 no. Where'd you find
Mm,
that? No, it's not possible.
yeah, and they have a Facebook page too.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I know
I
that.
mean, the Facebook page has been dead since 2009, but yeah, yeah,
So I'm pretty
they had an
sure.
online presence.
I don't think Mark,
Mhm.
the singer,
Mark Stone was the one. Yeah.
really.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look. I couldn't find anything. I can't
Yeah.
find anything. I know Graham, the bass player, passed away, from what I understand.
Yeah.
But wow. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna look for that.
Yeah. So I do think you picked the wrong song though,
Yes,
because Candy Cane is amazing, and
Candy
that is the
Cane.
one everybody should go and check out.
Well,
And then
what was the other one?
Things Are Gonna Change, which
No.
is the blue it's like a blues acoustic song, not really in the same genre, but I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they should have made it.
Yeah. So okay, so this is how we're gonna do it. So, and what was your score?
I'm giving them an 82.
82. So we'll
Mhm.
add up those, right? And then we'll decide if the band should have made it on a three-way vote, and we'll put it on the list.
Okay.
So what is the score? That's 188. And Dave, what'd you give them?
You gave him 100?
I did give them 100.
Okay.
33.33.
That is fucking stick. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Okay, so they have a total score of 73.44.
Okay. And
The first one on our chart, so they're obviously number 1. And I'm saying they should have made it.
I'm
I think a little more money behind them with a producer that could guide them, they could have been aces.
I agree. I agree. And again, this was the wrong song because he doesn't
Mm,
scream on any other song in
he
the album.
doesn't, yeah.
Nothing.
And
It's
Candy
all
Cane
yeah.
is a great song.
Yeah. And then the other one there, Tell Me What You Want From Me. It's not the name of the song, but it's so good. He screams into a payphone. And, oh, okay, Dave. Should they have made it?
Hell no.
Okay. And
You're outvoted.
yes, and I'm gonna say they should have made it. So there you go. First one in this new segment, Back Alley Sally. And the score was
Uh,
70
73.44,
73.44, and they should have made it. So there you go.
which puts
Lisa,
them at number 1 on our brand new chart.
okay. Lisa, what band and what song will we be looking for on YouTube this week?
Oh, so the band choice was really easy for me. I knew immediately who I was going to pick, but picking the song was extremely, extremely painful. So next week's homework, you guys are all going to go look up the band Glamour Punks, and that's
Yes.
Glamour, Glamour Punks. And I chose the song Video Nasty, although there are tons of great songs from this band.
Yes, yes, so good. So, band I'm very, very familiar with, and I
Mhm.
can't wait. I can't wait for this. So there you go, guys. Video Nasty, Glamour Punks. Go check it out.
I
We'll
think
talk about it.
the only problem with Glamour Punks is that there's really no official video
No,
for this song. So you would have to go and take a look at some of the live footage and some of the demo reels that they have. Not super high quality because, like I said, they never made it, so
no.
there was never money behind them. But use your imagination with
You'll be
that.
listening to live recordings of them at these shows that we're going to link to the page.
Yeah.
And they only really did a demo, which was like really low budget Hollywood demo, but it's still very cool because it's punk. And then the band actually got back together maybe like 10 years ago, I want to say,
Hmm.
and they recorded like a much better quality Glamour Punks album that you can actually buy.
Yeah.
And they played, I believe they got together and played at the Johnny Depp's old club there.
Viper.
Room.
All right, so there you go. We're going to move on to side B now. We'll try and get through this pretty quick here. Track number 6, Mr. Crowley. So this intro, it's evil and cool, right, Lisa?
Super evil and a little bit goth.
It is a little goth. We get
Mhm.
we get the stick 3 count into the vocals, which I thought was pretty cool. You can hear him count it out on the fucking snare rim or clicking his sticks together, whichever. A nice little touch. We get the subtle synth in the mix. It's perfect. It's everywhere. It's just kind of feathered in. We get this blazing guitar solo, right? Then we get an even better guitar solo. So if you like guitar solos, there's lots of it here for you. And here we are at track 6, and every single track has been cash money up to this point. So remember, up to this point. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, I played this one years ago when I was at Berkeley Music School, and this was a lot of practice on guitar.
Oh, you can play these leads?
I used to be able to. This was the second single from the album. Here's a quote from loudersound.com. Mr. Crowley takes its title from English occultist Aleister Crowley. The lyrics relate Ozzy's curiosity over the figure at the time, given that Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page had just bought Crowley's former house, I believe on Loch Ness. But they also inspired allegations of the ex-Sabbath man being into the dark arts.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, Ozzy, the Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
Prince of Darkness.
Killer keyboard intro by Don Airey. Maybe the best use of keyboards in metal right here. The song is heavy and awesome. Killer guitar work by Randy, murdering heavy solo, followed by a lighter harmony guitar bridge and another wild, classically inspired solo after. Where some of his contemporaries, like Eddie Van Halen, were influenced by classical and blues music, Randy's playing was much more on the classical side, paving the way for guitarists after him, as we said, like Yngwie Malmsteen.
Nice. And fucking music is art. I love that. That's what I said to my buddy Jay. Everybody hears it differently, just like everybody will see a painting differently, and that's just what I love about it. So cool to see how people have different opinions on different songs. I mean, even though Dave and Jay are wrong, that's the way it goes. Lisa, talk about it.
I love the dramatic opening of this song. The organs are so goth. He's really the Prince of Darkness. There's obviously some controversy with calling Ozzy goth. In the goth world, he's considered an influence on goth artists in some way, sort of like a grandfather. But the goth community does not consider Ozzy goth, mainly because metal is kind of considered uncool in the goth community. But to me, things like Black Sabbath and doomy sounds and atmospheric stuff, especially like this song, supernatural themes, the dark moods, all of it's all goth to me. But many in the goth movement would argue that I'm completely wrong. Goth is a very like gate kept genre. So lyrics in the song are absolutely incredible, conceived in the eye of a secret, and they scattered the afterbirth.
Oh, no.
How amazingly satanic.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. So Ozzy came up with the idea for this song because he wanted to pay tribute to Aleister Crowley. But Daisley, who claims he wrote the song lyrics, says that he didn't want to write a satanic song. So he wrote the song in a skewed way to be like, what are you thinking? Like Aleister Crowley, what are you doing? That kind of thing it was intended for. But all I hear is a tribute to Aleister Crowley. So okay. The guitar solo on this one is so freaking good. I feel like when it starts, Randy has been like waiting the entire song to just explode into this solo, and it's just so
Right.
amazing. He's just been waiting. He's like,
It's
when
like
is my turn? When is my turn?
shaking off in the back.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Again, we get verses without choruses, but it still has a hook, even though it doesn't really have a chorus. There's an instrumental interlude on this one. It's not really a solo; it's more like just a break in the song.
Yeah.
And the song seems to end with a bridge, with a slightly different key, and another sort of like pseudo solo that's completely classically shredding.
Yeah.
I love the darkness here. It's a perfect song. And it was also for me as a kid. My brother was a ritualistic theistic Satanist. So this song was kind of like his lifeblood. So
Interesting. That's fucking cool stuff. At least Randy was in the back, like with a little, like warming up his fingers.
oh my
Like,
god,
I'm gonna go.
he's like waiting, like when's my turn? When's my turn? And then he just like explodes.
Like the rabbit at the dog track.
Yeah.
Okay. Track number 7, No Bone Movies. So I've always loved all the guitar riffs in this song. Randy's doing a bunch of little subtle stuff. It's really cool. It's got a couple of licks that are like just so out of place on the album, but I love them. I think they really work. My only knock is they did not get the production right on this slide guitar. It's fucking brutal, man. It's so thin and squeaky. I can barely make out what he's doing. It's just, and it's not his playing. It's just literally the way they recorded it. It's just awful. As for the song, this is about as close to a filler as you're going to find on this album. And it is a filler. It has great drums. He's going to kick into some double bass on this one. I think it's the first time you hear it on the whole album, if not the only time on the whole album. But the drum sound isn't phenomenal, and it doesn't punch you in the face. This is not red hot. Okay, these double bass drums are not fucking out and loud. The vocals here are a fucking mess, though, especially at the end with the gang backing vocals, which they only do once on the album. It's not good. So for me, this song is the first hole in the album. But I mean, the chorus still okay. It's Ozzy. It's cool. Dave.
This was the final track written for the album. It was originally intended to be used only as a B-side, but was added to the album in order to give Kerslake a writing credit, as all the other material had been written before he joined the band. The song is not great. The lyrics, I guess, have to do with porn addiction, I guess, on film back in those days. The hook is actually pretty decent, but just the lyrics. The guitar parts are admirable for what the song is, and we get that slide guitar solo, which is decent playing. But yeah, I definitely hear you about the kind of questionable tone.
Yeah, I like my Randy without a slide in his hand. Lisa, did you like the song?
Oh, so this song actually replaced "You Looking at Me, Looking at You," which
Dude,
that's the B-side.
It came on after this, and I was
Yeah.
like, that chorus is fucking awful.
Yeah, so that was that ended up being the B-side of Crazy Train instead of this.
Oh, this is
Um,
better. This is better.
yeah. So this song starts off almost like bluesy, which is completely different than any of the songs that we've heard so far. So obviously it was written to express a distaste of porn movies. So bone movies were what they called porn movies in England at the time, I guess, that were playing in the theaters. Seems like a really strange topic for a metal band. The lyrics are quite complex, so you have to really read into them to get the meaning. We get a really blues solo in this one, which I kind of like. I mean, I think he did the best he could with what he had. We also get true choruses with repeating lyrics in this song, which is, at the time, a traditional arrangement for a song. But on this album, it stood out because none of the other songs were arranged like this one. We also hear Ozzy's voice crack on the play out. Leaving in the mistakes again seems natural and seems fine. And this one is shorter than most of the other songs, and that's probably good because it's not my favorite.
Yeah, it's rough. And for the record, I like a good porno. I do. I do. Track number 8, Revelation, Mother Earth. So this is a very interesting song. Okay. It's it's good with really interesting what felt like, I don't know, like diminished notes or something. It was an oddity. It had beautiful piano section in it, like trying to just like it was a lot of different things, right? Um, Good lyrics, but the production of the song comes in and out of focus. There are times that Ozzy just starts to fade into the mix, like in the middle of a verse. I'm like, where's he going? He's just disappearing into the song. It happens out of nowhere. There's also a lot going on in the song, and it feels like it started to get away from them a little bit. Like this feels like it's one of those like epic, like they were gonna do this epic, almost like bat out of hell, fucking like meatloaf, fucking
Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin, like,
Mm.
and they just couldn't tie it all together. It just felt like a soup with too many ingredients, and they were missing the one that was going to tie it all together, and it just kind of didn't work. And we're going to talk about these last 3 songs that this is a different album.
Mm.
These last 3 songs are a different album. Fucking Dave.
This one was written as a warning about ecological damage to the earth.
Dude, what the fuck is it doing on this album?
Fun fact, I once used this as the music for a school video report recorded on VHS.
Okay. First of all, I never saw the picture of fucking vintage vinyl radio. You never said vintage vinyl records.
You
I
posted
posted it.
I don't. I'm not on Facebook.
Oh, that's right.
I'm not that old. I've steered away from Facebook. And Dave, is there any way we can see this fucking video?
I think I still have it somewhere. I have to digitize it.
All right, just quickly, like paint us a picture of this, okay? Just
It's
quickly.
it's been so long, I don't even remember, but I think I showed pictures of National Geographic of, like, the oil can spilled over and while the Ozzy song was playing in the
Oh,
background.
dude, are you wearing like an
Amazing,
Aussie shirt?
amazing.
Were you allowed to wear concert shirts to school?
I was, but I didn't have any at that time, I don't
Dave,
think.
I can imagine Dave's locker at school, right? Like it's got a little coat hanger and he's got like concert shirts in there. So he goes to
Yep,
school like his little alligator shirt, and then he gets to school and he fucking like scuffs his hair
medals
up and
out,
puts on
yeah.
his fucking Motley Crue shirt.
Puts on a little spiked bracelet
I
and
fucking love it.
I'm ready to go.
Oh, it's like Skippy. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay. So yeah, Randy was a part of several school projects I did, including one about rock guitar. So yeah,
Dave, did you get an A for this project?
probably. I don't know. I
Don't
don't
think so.
remember.
Okay.
The guitar begins as all acoustic for the first two verses. The production is nice on this one. They bring in church bells and gradually slide in the heavy guitars as the song goes along. The music sounds pretty evil for such a positive, hippie, lyrical message. And there's a piano solo. Why did parents hate this? It sounds like Liberace. At the 5 minute mark, Randy takes over with some kick ass guitar. His sound was so big because he would record his guitar multiple times and mix them all together in the final recording. This is one of the techniques he became known for, as well as being able to match his solos so closely from one recording take to another. My favorite part is the climb up of notes at the end of the song and the whammy bar dive bomb leading us into the next song might be one of my favorite song transitions ever.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was left wanting more to get into this album. Nothing was my favorite ever. Lisa.
So we get an almost classical opening here, very atmospheric, a little hint of symphonic goth, or at least a precursor to maybe symphonic goth or Swedish symphonic metal. We get the familiar Ozzy voice. It seems to have no layering on this song, which was his kind of thing in almost all the rest of the songs on the album. Um, but his voice is so incredibly recognizable, you can point it out anywhere. The vocal track sounds like it was done in minimal takes. There are a few high notes that he reaches for and doesn't quite hit, even though he's definitely capable of hitting them. It feels natural in the way that the later 80s glam bands and other bands wouldn't have, because they were doing 100 takes on everything to get everything correct. The lyrics on this are really different, about environmental collapse, apologizing to future generations for the damage. Little did he know how it would never be fixed, and we would be in an even bigger crisis now. Yeah, there's some piano and synth work in the middle with an interesting guitar riff, some discordant notes, and then it goes a bit metal. And then we get an incredible guitar solo by Randy, classically inspired and really ahead of its time. I feel like Nuno took a lot from this, as I'm sure a lot of other guitar players did, but I definitely heard like, this was the foundation of Nuno's work, I think. A really unique arrangement. I'd call it a deep cut as far as Ozzy's solo work goes. But back in the day, this was a song that everybody listened to and was great for playing in the background at a party or something like that. It was very, epic and Led Zeppelin-ish.
So that was my phone notifying me that I have had my do not disturb on for 2+ hours. So it is now on. So I've had to put it back on. So there you go. Yeah, cool stuff there. Track 9, this is the final track on the album. It felt like, dude, honestly, it just felt like these guys ran out of gas. Like they were going 100 miles an hour up to track 6, and then they hit track 7. They're just like, fuck, I'm tired. I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. Track 9, Steal Away the Night. Last 3 songs on the album are the weak link on this album. And if you're going to use these 3 tracks, and I can't imagine they couldn't have written 3 better songs, because I heard 6 amazing ones, but I wish they'd sprinkled them into the album. Maybe, track 3, track 6, track 8, whatever it is. But no, they were going to make it the final act, and it's just making me start to forget what I heard at the beginning of the album. I mean, does the song suck? No, I knew all 3 of these songs, and I was still able to sing along with them, and I remembered them. The production on the solo is not great. And honestly, the guitar sound on the album comes in and out of focus a little bit for me. It gets thin and it gets squeaky at times. And I did not remember that. I remembered him having a bulletproof sound. He definitely doesn't. Overall, solid tune. And I guess it's a decent ending to the album. It's a little anticlimactic uh, after what I listened to for the first 20 minutes of the album. Dave.
Ozzy chose this song to end the album on an up note. Here's his quote: "I've always liked the idea of ending the album with an up-tempo song, like ending the live set with Paranoid. I love this guitar riff. Cool song. Um, Also, shout out to the bassist and drummer who do great work throughout the album. Bassist Bob Daisley has a website that even has a selection of a section of original bass and drum tracks that he's worked on, several from this album. Check it out. I believe it's bobdaisley.com. The song sort of stops short. I definitely would have preferred a fade out ending here, but it's a small gripe on a good song.
Nice. Lisa, how did you hear this final song on the album?
Well, we finish the album with a song that I guess is more classically Ozzy. Has a nice rock and roll opening. The bass is super prominent on this song, which is a good thing. Um, we get a standard arrangement with a repetition chorus and a hook. Lyrics are not as deep as some of the other songs, basically about escaping with someone you want to be with to a party, a little bit of romance, but no whores here because Ozzy has some class. We have a nice guitar solo. Well, the songs of the day were always women were
No horse
property.
here.
Yeah, so like women, it's a good song. Pretty good ending. It's hard for me to say to not say like, wow, this is a great song. I think it's a great song, but I'm comparing it now with decades of masterful hits that Ozzy has had over his huge long career. So in that idea, this song's okay.
Yeah, that's how I hear it. So, Lisa, do me two favors. One, send Delin a link to the Back Alley Sally Facebook page so I can see that.
Okay, I will.
And if you could send me a link to a live performance that you have
The
watched,
2007 one, yeah, I
I
will.
would really appreciate that
Yeah.
as well.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that's it. We have broken down the album for you. Let's do a couple little moves we do here. We're gonna do some favorite songs. My favorite song on the album obviously is Crazy Train because it's the best song on the album. And the song I would cut would be No Bone Movies because it is not the best song on the album. I would remove Randy Rhoads from this band. I would replace him with Eddie Van Halen. I think it's an obvious choice.
Wow.
Dave, what do you got?
Favorite track, Mr. Crowley. I always get psyched when I hear that one. I would cut No Bone Movies. Lame.
Yeah.
And for replacing, I'm going to replace the producer on this one.
Nice.
I
Nice.
get
Okay.
the feeling that the band was basically unsupervised, and it's possible a name producer may have messed it up. But what would it have sounded like with someone like Mutt Lange, who around the
Mhm.
same time was producing AC/DC and Def Leppard?
Yep. I love that. So Mutt Lange's your guy?
Sure.
Okay, Mutt Lange, I love it. And I don't want to take out Randy Rhoads. He was awesome. I just would love to hear this album with Eddie playing on it. I just think it would be a fun reimagination. Lisa,
Sure.
And to be fair, over the years, we've heard all of these songs played by multiple guitarists that
yes,
Ozzy has had behind him. So
Yep.
it's interesting how each one does it a little bit different.
yep,
So
absolutely. I love that on YouTube. Where they'll replay, back to back like a Zach Wild version of the solo with a Randy version of the solo. You
yeah.
can hear the two. Really
Yep.
interesting. Lisa, do what you got to do.
Okay, so favorite song, obviously, in honor of my brother, is "Crazy Train," but honorable mention to "Goodbye to Romance." What track would I cut? No Bone Movies, obviously.
Nice.
That should not be a
Unanimous.
surprise to anyone.
Yeah.
I'm replacing drummer Lee Kerslake with Joe Hasselvander from Pentagram.
No, that's so obscure. I wish I
Wow,
could say that
random
was a
pull.
great choice,
I
but I
don't
have
know
no
how I don't know
idea.
how obscure it is because Pentagram's singer is all over social media right now. If you've seen him.
Pentagram, that's a band?
Yeah, the band that they show that crazy lead singer with the gray hair and the crazy look in his eye just looking over the audience.
No,
It's like a meme right now. And
no.
that's the singer of Pentagram.
I'll look it up. I'll look at Pentagram on YouTube.
Mhm.
I'll have to watch it. Okay, so that's it. Let's do our final thoughts. We'll score it and we will move on with our lives. So let's see. This is an iconic, important album, as you all know. As much as I want it to be a perfect 100-watt album, unfortunately, it just is not. But it is pretty damn close. So I'm going to give it a 95.1. That is my fucking score. Dave.
Go buy this album and also Diary of a Madman, Essential Metal Listening.
Indeed.
Also, pick up Quiet Riot, the Randy Rhoads Years, and the 1987 Ozzy Live tribute album. Revel in the genius of Randy Rhoads.
Yes.
He was one of the few guitarists that created the blueprint for 80s and overall metal guitar playing and influenced many great guitarists that came after him, including Tracy Guns and Zakk Wylde. I am convinced he helped Ozzy achieve the legendary status that he has today, and I'm pretty sure Ozzy knows that. If he had gotten some dumbass rando guitar player for this album, I really doubt that Ozzy would have gotten as far as he did. This is a great classic record with several songs that have never left Ozzy's set list through an army of great guitar players. Shout out also to Jakey Lee.
Oh, yeah.
That we did not give him enough props in here either. My score is 97.9.
I had a 96.9, but I came down a little bit after discussing those last three. Tried to buy tickets to see LA Guns last night, and I couldn't believe it was sold out.
Sold out.
Yeah,
So
we
I
couldn't
couldn't
believe
go.
it either.
Yeah. Jay
Mhm.
texted me. He's like, you had to show. I'm like, no, I'm on my fucking couch. It was sold out. Fuck. I was hoping Lisa was going to be there. I could be like, can you open the back door
Janae
for
was
me?
there.
Was she?
Yeah.
I wonder if I could have got her to open the back door for me. Probably not. Okay. Lisa.
Okay, this was a devastatingly hard re-listen for me. Extremely emotional. I had to actually stop and walk away more than once during this. How amazing it is that music has the ability to bring back all of these things that we try to lock away in our brains. This music is no longer part of my day to day life, but it was nice to revisit it and that time period and lots of memories. And how ironic that you chose this album 1 week from the 20th anniversary of my brother's death. I don't know
Maybe I
how
was channeling. Maybe I was
the
channeling.
yes, the universe is speaking, and a lot of really, really strange things have been happening the past couple weeks. So we're gonna
Awesome.
chalk it up to that. I have one of those stories, but we should have a paranormal podcast for that. Um, yeah, yeah. I also had to listen to this realizing that it came out of 1980, 1981, which is basically 45, 46 years ago, musically way before a lot of the other albums that we're looking at, way before some major shifts in recording, electronics, memory technology, and all of that. And also through the lens of how much this album and his next two albums gave to metal and inspired literally an entire generation of music and musicians like still today. Having said that, it's an album I will probably never listen to all the way through again, mainly because it is emotionally destroying for me for days afterwards. And it's also not the genre that I generally listen to nowadays. I will continue to listen to my favorites from Ozzy, Bark at the Moon, the song being my favorite of his, Shot in the Dark, the duet with Lita Ford, and of course, Crazy Train. But I like my metal a little bit blacker. However, for Ozzy, I have only the highest respect as an icon. He looks so cool, even today. I can't imagine the day that will come when we lose him. All that he's done in his life and how many times he's been so close to death, and the fact that he's still going, I think we're very, very lucky. I even checked, a couple hours before we filmed this, before we recorded the podcast, just to make sure he was still with us.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Oh,
I did,
shit.
and he is.
Make
So
sure Ozzy's okay.
yeah,
Fucking death
that's what
wish.
I do every morning is I make sure that, the headlines that
Fucking
Ozzy's still good.
Deadpool.
Yeah, yeah. So my final score is 96.8. And to be fair, that's a little bit out of respect for everything he's given to music and a bit of a tribute to my brother too.
Oh, I like that. You know what? I'm going to go to my original score. It was 96.9. That was what I had written down in my notes. So let's just go for it. It's
All
fucking
right.
a great album. Okay. Will you please add those up and tell us where it lands on the Violent Vinyl board?
Sure. On the Violent Vinyl album chart, Ozzy Osbourne's debut solo album, which was supposed to be Blizzard of Ozz the band, is now Blizzard of Ozz the album from 1980, got a total score of 97.20, putting it at number 1 on the album chart above Skid Row's Skid Row.
Wow. That's it's pretty high.
Wow.
Are we re-listening to it?
I am re-listening to it. Dave, are you re-listening to it?
Oh yeah.
And I
Okay.
can't, and not because there's anything wrong with the
No,
album.
I get it because it just
Yeah.
it cuts you deep.
Yes, it does.
So it's a yes. It's
We
a yes.
understand.
Listen again.
All right.
It's not quite Back in Black. It's not a complete album, but it's really, really good. Okay, Lisa, you have got the next pick. So please tell us what our homework will be for the next 2 weeks. What band will we be listening to?
Based on your comment a minute ago, I think you're going to be really happy about this. We are doing LA Guns Cocked and Loaded.
Whew, I love it. And loaded. All right, so we already did the first LA Guns album, so
Yes.
I'm excited to do this. Now, this is an album I have not listened to all the way through in many, many years. I can't wait to revisit it. This was my number one favorite band for many, many years.
Oh,
And if it wasn't for LA Guns, I wouldn't have met my wife again. We had met when we were young, very, very young, and dated for a while and lost touch for many, many years. And then I went to go see LA Guns at the Alternate Route. And who was there seeing LA Guns at the Alternate Route? But
Aw.
my lovely wife. And yes,
That's amazing.
yes, I drove her home in my bright yellow Corvette. And we made out in a church parking lot before I
Oh,
dropped her off at her apartment. So there you
that's
go.
so rock and roll.
It is. It was awesome. Yeah, she would have had me up to her apartment, but she was in the middle of dumping her fucking loser boyfriend. So there you go.
Nice.
I put the fucking jets on that situation. So there you go. LA Guns, Cocked and Loaded. Next on our sister podcast, Hey, Did You Ever See That Movie? We'll be reviewing the original Alien with the original flavor Tony on his Tony's Tales of Terror. There you
Ooh,
go. That's it.
fun fact, I have never seen that movie.
Get the fuck out of here. That's impossible.
Dave wants to watch the new one, and I'm like, I haven't seen any of the others.
Oh, the original is so
Yeah.
good.
We have 5 movies now to watch before I can watch the new goddamn one.
Oh, shit. All right, guys. Until next time, take those albums out of the sleeve and let the music breathe. See you next time.